What's up YouTube? Welcome to the Acura Auto Garage. The video you're about to watch is a small portion of a larger video, so if you're looking for the full video, check down in the description. In this video we're going to cover how to install an amplifier into your 2009 to 2014 Acura TSX. We are showing you on a base, but you can do the same thing on a base or a tech package. I'm going to show you how to run the wire, where to find the remote, how to grab your signal, and if you need a line out converter, or you can just use our harness. So first you want to get yourself some tools. So I have tools here in front of me. I have a ratchet, 10mm socket, an extension, and then a 10mm wrench. Then I have some Allen keys just in case, and then a Phillips screwdriver. This is going to depend on which amplifier you have. Then you're definitely going to need a clip removal tool and a trim panel removal tool. I have two of the same tools here. Then you're going to need an amp kit. The amp kit that you get is up to you. Then you're going to need some sort of line out converter depending on what you choose to get. So I have the LC2I here, and then the one we sell. So in order to get started, we're going to remove this panel. We're going to start with our trim panel tool. What we're going to do is stick it right here underneath, released, and I'll do the rest of my hand. So this isn't glued or anything, it's just pressed into place. We're going to come down here and we're going to pop this way. So this has two retaining clips. I like to start at the top of my hand. You're just going to pull, and then you got to grab the one from the bottom and just pull as well. But I'm just going to remove this one like that. There, the panel's just going to come out with a little bit of force. Same thing. Stick my pry tool right over there, again prying it up in that edge, and then I'm going to continue with my hand. Here it's a little tricky, it's wrapped around, but you can get it done. It's just a matter of, it's easier with two hands than one, but there we go. So now, and we have to remove our weather stripping because this is going to have hooks. So as you try to pull it out without removing this weather stripping, you're going to break it. So on that side you remove it, on this side you remove it. It only needs to be removed up to there, and then you can start at the top or bottom. You're just going to go with your thumb and pull back like that. The other side, same thing, with your thumb, then pull back. Then we have two retaining clips here at the bottom. The pressure is literally right here, so you're just going to, oh well, mine slid out. Here's one, so here's two. For our next step, we want to take this piece off. I'm not sure what to call it, your seat end cap, your seat cushion. I'm not sure what you wouldn't call this piece, but you want to take it out. What's holding this is it's a hook and a 10mm over here. So we got our 10mm out of that slot. You can see it's no longer there. And now we can lift this up and out. So here's the hook. You want to be real careful. You want to come all the way up, and then you can pull it out. And here's the hook right here. You don't want to break it. This is what this panel looks like. So it's the 10mm down there. So we're going to route our power wire from the positive terminal down this way underneath our air intake, through here, up and down that way into this crevice. We're going to drill a hole on the other side coming this way to get our power wire through. My hole with an impact and a step bit. This is called a step bit. This is what you want to use. Make drilling the hole real easy. See that nice hole into the body? This flap, you can tuck it up and above this, and then you can drill your hole as big as you need it to. Then we're going to run our wire from here down this way, all the way this way, and then to the trunk. There's a different location where you can run your power wire. Right around the same location where our hole is, if you pull this cover down, you'll actually see, I don't have much light, but right there, you'll actually see a grommet already. So out of that grommet, if you push your wire, you can then get it to come out of this hole down there, right where my finger is, to the left of the engine. Back here, you can actually reach this grommet pretty easily, but you're going to come from this way in. Because if you try to come from the other side, it's the glove box and right behind the glove box that kind of get in the way. So if you pull the glove box, you can kind of do it, but the easiest way is to come from this way down and just poke the top of the grommet with a hole, not the sides or around it, so that you don't damage any wire. So now we got our right fuse tap. This is the wrong fuse though. It has a 10 amp fuse. You want to use like a 3 amp or a 2 amp fuse, but for demonstration purposes this will work. So we're going to slide the fuse that we took out back into the first slot, not the slot that has the wire coming out. So the second slot has the wire coming out. First slot is going to look like that, and then we're going to put it back into number 18. We're clicking Okay, so then I'm gonna touch metal and that again. And you can see we have 13 volts or 12 volts. We have a battery booster on here, so it's gonna be a little higher, but you can see we have 12 volts. So now we have our hole for our power wire, and we have our fuse tap. Our fuse tap that we did earlier is to use as a remote to turn our amplifier on and off with the key. So your amplifier normally has 3 connections. It has power, which is constant power from the battery, the thick wire. You have ground, which is another thick wire that goes to metal. Then you have remote, which is a 12-volt source that tells the amp to turn on and off, and you want it to turn on and off with the key so it doesn't drain your battery. So both those lines will run down this way into the trunk, and then we'll properly zip tie them and put them in place in the trunk. So got all my wiring done. You can see I have my fuse here. It's not out, but my fuse is connected and zip tied in place, and then my power wire runs underneath the intake into there, down this way, down that way. It's all zip tied in place straight into the trunk. Now this is a good time to also run your bass knob or any additional RCAs you're going to need for whatever your circumstance is. For me, all of the connections are now going to be made in the back because the amplifier is back there. If you have an aftermarket radio though, you will need to run RCAs up to the front, and if you're going to do that, you can either run them on this side or that side. It's recommended to run power and RCA signal on different sides, so if you need to see how this side comes off, it's the exact same as the other side, so you could just do it again. If you have really high quality RCAs or really high quality stuff, then you can run it all up the same side. And then this panel gives you a nice comes right off, and it gives you a nice place to mount a bass knob if you want to do that. We're not doing that in any of our installs. I'm actually going to put all the panels back now because everything else we're going to be doing is going to be in the trunk. All right, so I'm going to disconnect my left speaker and my subwoofer. So they're both disconnected. They're both hanging like so. I'm then going to take my T-harness. It has about 4 feet of wire, and I am going to run one side to the sub, and then I'm going to run the other side to the speaker, and then I'm going to plug my speaker back in. So my rear speaker and my subwoofer still have sound. They work like normal, but now I've captured the signal. I showed you in the car where this plugs in. The other side you can cut off and send to your LC2I, so you can do left as white and right as gray, and they're matching colors. Or if you're using our product, this plugs into here, right here, like so. So this plugs in like so. This then plugs into, so then this plugs into this like so. And now you have RCA out, and you also have adjustments for your gains. If you're wondering where to hook up the rest of the wires, I'm going to show you in the video, but you also do get a little instruction manual. And the way it breaks down is black and white. Black go to ground, blue goes to your amp, and this goes to the remote fuse tap we made on fuse 18. So now this RCA is plug in here, and then the RCAs plug into your amp. If you want something even simpler, you want to eliminate the line out converter altogether, I'll show you something. So the reason why I love the Kicker key is because it has a built-in DSP, but it also was the inspiration for this harness, so that after you hook everything up, this just plugs right in here. You make sure that you set the input level to high, and now power, ground, and our speaker, and we're all set. So I'm going to show you how easy it is to install this. If you wanted something bigger, more bass, I showed you the line out converter situation, and then you're just going to put it into your amp. We're going to use that line out converter later for the next step, so just if you want bass though, this is going to be the easiest way. Captured the signal to my amplifier, and it's that simple. Now I have signal for my amplifier. Now I need to make my other 3 connections. So ground to ground, power to power, remote to remote, and then my speaker wire for my amp. So again, we tapped our rear speakers. You're gonna want to zip tie that if you're really gonna leave this in place. It's going for the signal input to our amplifier. Then we have power coming from the battery. Ignore these. I have 4 gauge. This only calls for 8 gauge, so I'm using those as converters, but I'm also going to be using those for when we do our 2-channel amplifier setup. So we're leaving them in place, but just imagine that this wire runs all the way to here, that wire runs all the way to there. So we have ground, power. We ended up grounding right here. This is for illustrative purposes, so I could show you. You need to remove the paint. You could choose that ground as well, or this ground is up to you. If you use this ground, you will lose this right here. All right guys, so our amp is on. You can see our little green light right there. I know the wiring looks crazy. If this is your actual install, you're going to want to clean this up a lot. You're going to want to mount your amp on a rack. For our example, this works all right. I've got some bass playing already and it's sounding pretty good. I got a good amount of bass out of this guy. You can leave this one connected or disconnected, it's up to you. I'm going to give you a quick demo of what it sounds like in the front. Alright guys, something I forgot to mention is if you have the V6, so most of them have the 2.4, but if you have the 3.2 or 3.5, I forget what's in there. If you have the V6, you're going to have ANC, so you're going to want to disable ANC. The ANC module is behind the radio, so you will have to pull the faceplate and disconnect it. It's just a little gray box. I'll put a picture on the screen, but you want to make sure you take care of that. Otherwise, you're going to have rumbling from your sub or like excessive noise from your sub that you don't want, so you want to disable that ANC. Version harness for our line out converter. Our line out converter then has 4 additional wires. I showed them to you earlier. So yellow goes to fuse tap number 18 that you did at the fuse box. Blue is your remote output, so this goes to your amp on the SR 4.500. The input wire for remote is red. Then you're left with a black and a gray black. Both of those need to go to ground. So here they're going to my distribution block. You could have just screwed it to here. You could have put it into that terminal, put it into this terminal. Both of those need to go to ground. And on your output side of the line out converter, we have our RCAs, and then our RCAs run into our amp.